He takes a nap.
Sorry, I'm just making sure.
You can clear that distance to him and move 5 if you're looking at the closest goblin.
I'm just making sure I got my Theneborn Triumph stuff.
Hmm.
Correct. Okay. So I charge towards him out of the woods,
Nice.
and I use Howling Strike as I get there. I see that the humans kind of really beat up,
He's seen better days.
and I'm like, I better end this while I can. So my next attack roll gets +1 for the charge, and then +3 because I bloodied him.
Yep.
Isn't that a flank too?
Yep.
Oh yeah. So it's like +6. I think I'm gonna hit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't actually think you can miss because your d20 +7 +6, that's like 13 versus yeah. Yeah, you
Only
just
a
rolled a
30.
30. Yeah. So I think you get, is it +1 to your damage or something for
What escalated
charge?
violence was? No, charge is just +1 to your roll. To your
Okay,
attack.
right. Okay, and that's that, I guess, for your turn.
Let me think here. Yeah, I can't finagle my. Okay, yeah, we're good.
Okay.
So I try to kill it. It doesn't.
You
doesn't
got close. You definitely did a charge and put your sword directly through his ribs and his back. He's clearly seen much better days, but barely hangs on to life. The Goblin Thorn to the south of Vanguard
Actually, nah, never mind. My turn's over.
is going to try and book it again. He's going to take a quick attack at Vengar before he does, and misses. And he's going to full out run away. So he's going to provoke an opportunity attack from Vengar.
Yes. Okay. So
you
that's just a
can use
normal
a
attack.
basic melee.
Okay, so
against
I'm
him.
going to use one of my 2 power points
Okay.
to use an augmented twisted eye, which basically that just lets me roll off my con instead of my strength.
Right.
So let's
Constitution modifier damage or to hit?
my hit.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, it's basically. I mean, my
when
melee.
making opportunity attack, you can use this in place of melee. Augment 2.
Yeah,
One weapon Constitution modifier damage, and the target is blinded till the end. So no matter what, you're doing the same to hit. The augment does the damage.
So the first so I get the two power points per rest, right?
Yes.
So I'm using one of those to trigger augment 1.
Right.
So I don't think augment 2 also does augment 1. I think it's one or the other. It just costs 1 point or 2 points.
Okay. Well, augment 1 just means that you use Twisted Eye instead of a basic melee.
Yes. Whereas my
Right.
because my normal attack would be strength versus AC.
Oh,
right?
I see what you're saying. Okay. Okay. You're just talking about the nature of Twisted Eye. Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I'm not doing anything special with Twisted Eye. It's
okay.
just so that I might have a chance of actually hitting him.
Right.
Okay. Let's. I'm hitting. No, I'm just clicking on the wrong.
Okay.
Okay, and then.
So the goblin goes to run away from Vanguard, but before he can, Vanguard grabs him by the shoulder, pulling him in close to his chest, and jams his sword into his eye from behind.
That is a really strong ability.
It's that twisted eye, twisting the sword before eventually tossing the goblin to the side.
I think theoretically Twisted Eye is supposed to be metaphorical, but
it works well this way.
Yeah, I'll take it this way.
Yeah.
So Iron's kind of shocked as he tries to ready his blade again. He sees something he wasn't expecting.
That would make it Zontar's turn.
All right. So using a healing surge, is that That's a
That's a
standard action, right?
That's a standard action to use your second wind. So
Second
if
wind.
you wanted to use that now, you could use your action point to do
That's
so.
what. Yes, I'm going to do both of those.
Okay.
So I'm going to use my action point, remove a surge, and use my second wind.
Mhm.
Now, how do I? How much health
You,
does second wind?
you just hit
return?
you hit the use surges button. You hit that green plus, and you hit use surges, and then you just hit the adjust HP button, and it'll do it on its own. It'll give you 8 hit points.
Okay, use surges, adjust HP. Okay, there we go. Perfect.
Just that rune priest bonus too.
Um,
It's 12.
Iron Lung, do you know this? I know second wind can give you +2 to your defenses. Does
Yeah.
that apply as well as the healing surge, or is that an and or?
I am 99% positive it's one or the other.
Okay. All right. Okay, Zontar, it is your turn.
Okay, so I'm pretty pissed off at this point.
Oh, it's
I guess
Vengar's
it's
turn.
still-
Sorry.
yeah, it's
Sorry.
still my
yeah,
turn.
I keep
Yeah.
saying it's Zontar's turn.
Yeah.
No, it's
Oh,
Vengar's
okay.
turn. So right, you haven't even done your combat action yet.
Yeah, where did my
Yeah.
character go?
Do you not see him?
No, I don't.
So this says in
Do you
game
see him now?
terms.
Okay. Yes, I can, and that's where I was going to go anyway.
Well, that's where you were. You haven't moved yet. All you've done, actually, you haven't even used your action point yet. You just used your second wind and you healed. So you have a minor and a move action left, and you could use your action point to attack if you wanted to. It's up to you.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to use my minor to mark them, because why not?
Mhm.
And I'm going to, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to Twisted Eye this one as well,
Mhm.
because that sounds about right. It worked so well in the last one,
Do it.
and
So
I've just
make
been
sure you
hit too
keep
many
track of
times.
your combat advantage that you and Iron Lung are granting each other.
Oh, okay. So it's combat advantage is +2
I
to
think,
hit.
is it +1 or +2? I don't know. Do you remember?
Combat advantage is
+2? It's +2, yeah.
Okay.
Also, I was 1% wrong, and it is definitely
You
the
get
heal-
both?
and you get plus. It
Yeah.
actually says and.
That's what I thought. That was something I was going to have to look up, but okay. So when you use your second wind, you get +2 till the end of your turn, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
+2 what until the end of your turn?
Defenses. Anything attacking
Oh, okay,
you
okay.
gets a -2.
So that's kind of Matt's gonna have to track that.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
So what actually happens is Vengar grabbed the first goblin on its way, spinning it, facing it away from itself, jabbing his sword into his eye, then turned around and swung the goblin's corpse at the other goblin, smashing the goblin's skulls together, killing the both of them in one turn.
That's
And
awesome.
he has a move action left if he is so inclined.
And absolutely, being aware of what's happening up there with Zontar and that he can't hit a spell for his life.
He's trying though. He's
Oh,
trying.
he sure is.
He's casting like
1,
crazy.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, and my turn.
Okay. Zontar, it is your turn to do some damage here. To show these fools what you are capable of.
Well, everybody notices that this goblin just has some jukes and I can't hit any spells. I get super pissed and I say, "This is it, hitting you with a hellish rebuke." And then I miss.
So good. And he always
What are these
just
spells?
misses by like
What are these spells
2.
looking like? What are they looking like?
They just look like just streams of color streaming off into the sky.
They're just fitzing out everywhere.
Missing.
Yeah.
Everywhere but the correct direction.
He picks up, he uses like a telekinetic power to pick up a rock next to him and flings it towards the goblin, but it actually just like flings in the complete opposite direction. Like, yeah.
Do you think, Matt? Do you think you could like spool up the Ultima Online spell fizzle sound for that?
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna
after I
have to
miss
do
again,
that.
I
Yeah.
just bow my head in shame and shift 1.
Okay.
I can still use a minor, right?
Yes.
And then I hit him with my warlock curse.
Cool.
What does that do? Or
that-
actually,
it's a
I
minor
shouldn't.
to like mark essentially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah. Okay, and it would put it at the goblin cutthroat's turn. This goblin goes to move towards sort of in your direction, and he starts to head in that direction before you guys hear some like stomping off sort of behind you, which the goblin hears as well, just in time to see like a whole string of riders sort of heading this way, in which they all sort of ride past the goblin, ride past you guys. One of the riders in the lead taking off the goblin's head in just like one swing with his executioner's axe as he goes by, killing him instantly. And all the riders sort of coming up here and encircling the camp, sort of forming a perimeter. Some riders coming over here, some towards the sides of the forest, this and that. So you guys are all sort of like taken aback, and the three of you, just by nature and uncertainty, sort of find yourselves moving closer together, sort of huddling together. While you sort of watch the riders driving off either the last few slaver goblins into the woods or wiping blood off their weapons and sort of sizing you guys up. Just as you are sort of sizing up the whole situation, you guys all sort of look off to the north as well, in which you notice that the rider that happened to hack open the door for you, who happens to look incredibly smug and pleased with himself and is like covered in goblin blood, is actually having his hands bound by two of the other riders. Like, it looks like they're like putting him under arrest or something. And he couldn't care less, seemingly. And before they ride off south, the three of them, the two of them binding him and him making the third, he sort of like has a smug look on his face and turns to the three of you and winks before being led off. So you guys are surrounded by the rest of the riders. One approaching the three of you, who is sort of more decorated than the rest, who introduces himself as Lieutenant Graben of the Ashbenford Riders. And he asks you if there's anything you can tell him about what you're doing here or what's happened, what has brought the three of you to this situation. Anybody have a story to tell? Keep in mind, too, I mean, I guess this is a perfect example to the fact that anybody watching these videos don't know your backstory up until this point, and they don't know what's brought you here.
So, I mean,
So while this is all happening, can we assume it's a short rest?
Yeah, combat's over.
All right, so on top of the short rest, just while this is all going on, we kind of felt like there was no threat because these guys were seemingly on the same side during the fight. Like, I'm getting all my stuff secure as far as like making sure my clothing's on correct.
Strapping your armor
so
on and
actually
stuff.
wearing armor and stuff now.
I'll take the same opportunity to pull the arrows out of my arm, which I'm pretty sure is still there.
So what that means is a short rest. You can
well, don't worry.
Counter powers.
Don't worry about your short rest right this second. I mean, you are still in mid-conversation with this guy. You'll get a chance to do it soon. But yeah, he wants to know what's brought you to be here.
Yeah, so I tell him that, I was captured and put into this wagon, and then I heard the commotion and started to break free and fighting all these goblins. Well, trying to fight them, but I am not very good at fighting.
And I basically echo the same sentiment. I'm from the far north. I had just left my town for the first, almost, except for roaming, for the first time in my life, and wound up captured. I don't know any of these people. I don't know where I am. I've been bound and in this, in this jail cart for days. I have no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
So he looks over to Iron Lung, and how about you, Half Dragon? How did you come to be here?
So I just, I basically kind of beat around the bush a little bit. I was just journeying through the forest to what I think was the north of here. And I kind of changed the subject because I'm interested in the Drow, which is a race that I'm not familiar with. The same way I'm really not familiar with
Right.
Xantar, but
Well, the three of you
I'd seen
know
goblins. So I mentioned to him,
yeah, you've
I'd
heard
seen
stories about
goblins in
Drow.
Netheril,
Hmm.
but I don't know what the other black-skinned ones were. What were they?
Right. He responds with, well, I'm sure you've heard stories throughout your life of drow elves. That was what you've heard stories of. Scourge of the Underdark, and anytime they come to the surface, they displayed their true nature in perfect form as soon as they found they were outnumbered to flee off into the forest like the rats that they are. But I will tell you, it's very lucky that we happened upon the three of you. This isn't part of our regular patrol. We've just been making good time from our regular route, and we ventured a little further than usual. It could even be perhaps that the goblins and the drow knew our route and hadn't expected to see us here, who can say. But I will tell you now that you are in the Dale Lands, which sounds like maybe south of where the majority of you had been traveling. Specifically Mistdale, to be exact, quite close to our capital, Ashabenford. You seemingly held your own against those five, he says, sort of signaling the corpses. Between killing a few on my own, I managed to catch a glimpse of you three making fairly short work of your would-be captors. Must have been fairly pleasing, I guess. I would ask that the three of you come back with us to Ashabenford. I'm not sure the relation between the three of you. It sounds like you're strangers, but the town is less than a day's travel from here, even by foot. I'm sure that Captain Beargill, who is the captain of the Ashabenford Riders, would like to hear your story firsthand. And from there, in the town, you can get a hot meal, a wash, and secure travel to wherever it happens to be that the three of you choose to move on from there. Does that sound agreeable to the three of you?
No,
Do you have any problems with that?
absolutely. As long as we can have a time just to make sure we're, properly equipped in case we run into more trouble, and to make sure that we've reclaimed all of our belongings from the caravan.
Sure. There are what looks to be around probably 12 riders here who are incredibly well armored and equipped. So you do definitely feel protected, let's say.
And maybe even hurried. Just as an aside here, are there other captives in the other two caravans? Or the
Yeah,
other two?
there were a few humanoid captors in there. Most of them were either too afraid or too sick to escape on their own, or they were tied down and this and that. Hold on, just one sec. Hold on, just one second. two people going back and forth with me right now, furiously RPing. typing so loud?
RP away.
Okay. Okay, everybody stop typing.
It's
Okay.
good though. Everybody's interested.
So, Foshi. Okay, so everybody, everybody sort of agrees. Zontar sort of begrudgingly so seems sort of distant to the whole situation. But as everybody's sort of like tying their armor on properly and regathering their gear and such, another quick search discovers that the horses and wagons were likely stolen from merchants traveling in the area anyways. The riders sort of come up with the decision that there's no reason to leave them behind, and Lieutenant Graben asks that the three of you pilot the wagons back to town, because there's three of them, 3 horses. So we kind of just da-da, da-da, da-da kind of situation while the riders come alongside with you.
Alright, so while all that was going on, I moved over to the left of the wagon that I'm actually on right now, and I started rummaging through the corpse of the first goblin that I killed.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to assume that you guys looted all the corpses and such, and we will deal with that after the adventure. Ironlung, you and I can talk more about that situation in depth further.
And it's pretty obvious to the other people that I'm being a little bit more careful with my rummaging than look like I'm looting something. So
tearing apart their bags and such. Okay, so you guys could take any rest that you need to do now. Use your healing surges, this and that.
Short?
Yeah, it's a short rest. You're not sleeping, but so you can refresh your encounter powers, and you can take any healing surges you want to use now. So I should probably see your hit points come up to next to full. Yeah, and so while you guys are doing that, we'll talk about on the way. You managed to get the wagon sort of staggered. It's a wide road, and you managed to get the wagon staggered close enough together that you can sort of shout back and forth between the wagons so you can all hear each other. Lieutenant Graben asks along the way if you guys know much about the Dales at all. Which I'm going to leave it up to you guys to... Actually, you know what? Why don't you all make history rolls?
Hey, I can actually roll something decent now.
Who'd have thunk it? Okay. So, in asking if anybody knows anything about the Dales, Zontar sort of pipes in that he does know that the Dales are sort of a group of loosely bound together provinces, sort of by similar politics and goals, sort of forming a country, but aside from that, no like definitive rocket science answers, to which the Lieutenant Graven agrees with you that the Dales are a series of different provinces all working together. They're generally of goodly folk. It's rich, well-forested country, which actually let's just switch just for both your sake and for the people watching. If you zoom in, you can see, does everybody see where the Dales are on the map? Or does anybody not see where the Dales are? They're south of the Moonsea. If you see the country of Netheriel, it's quite far north. There's the Fallen Sea, and it should just be northwest of the Fallen Sea. See the Dales? There's the forest there, Cormanther Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody not see it? Okay, so I'm going to assume you all see it. So if you look at where the map actually says the Dales, there is Ashaven Ford is just south of that on the road there. You see Mithranor, there's Mist Dale is where you are now. Ashaven Ford is the capital. This is Lieutenant Graven talking now. Who says Ashaven Ford is the capital of the largest settlement of Mistdale, which is where you are now. With Ashaven Ford has about 2,000 or so goodly souls living there. It's the seat to the Council of Six, who were elected representatives from around Mistdale, who in turn elect a High Councillor who governs rule over the entire Dale. Ashaven Fort itself was really just a group of cottages that over time grew naturally on its own. It definitely wasn't built for defense, which largely is what it needs the most now in times of late, but I won't bore you with local politics and defensive strategies and such. Mistdale itself actually was supposedly formed from the crater of a falling star. Not many people know that. Ashaven Ford rests probably about the spot that I imagine the star would have stopped in its travels. We should be getting fairly close now, though, actually just around this bend, which I will show you. Here's Mistdale. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. I'm just going to give you guys a quick brief look at this. If we zoom out and zoom in again, you should be able to see Mistdale. So you guys just came from the north, but are kind of like through the traveling of the way that continuing the rest of what's the term I'm looking for? The scouting trip that these guys were on. You guys cut to the south, crossed over the river, and are now coming up to Ashaven Ford from the south. Which I will show you here. So, despite this map is wrong, okay, or the way that imagine it's upside down. So you coming from the south are actually coming from the north. The way this map works, it's like it's flipped upside down, okay. So yeah, you start to come up to the from the south, or on this map, the north. So you'll see you're coming in towards where it's marked number 1 on the map. Does everybody see that?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. So, yeah, Lieutenant Graven sort of says, here we are, and you sort of come through these trees. And he says, I might as well sort of give you a tour of the village as we're passing through it.